Hello, and welcome to my channel. Vice Rhino here. Cirrus is not quite over there yet. He said he had to go and do something, didn't specifically say what it was, so I kind of hoped that he'd be back by now. Anyway, as long as I'm waiting for Cirrus, you guys get to watch me as I try and figure out how to... like, what's going on with my my chatbot in fucking YouTube? What? Oh, god damn it. They updated it. That's what's happening. And instead of just rolling with the ones that I already had set up, it's like, yeah, we're just gonna delete everything. Okay, so I'm not gonna deal with that right now. So hi, how's things? Artemis, no, I didn't forget my glasses. My glasses are right here, but I tried to catch my glasses, and so now they do this. So, yeah, unless... like, I guess it doesn't look too bad, but it feels uncomfortable. And, like, it's not that bad of a bend, but, yeah, no. So if you'd like me to have new glasses, go to patreon.com/ViceRhino. Cirrus? Are we back?
No.
No.
Yes.
No. Okay.
Apologies for taking longer than I thought. I brought my phone out there thinking that it would help me time myself, and apparently I did not do a good job timing myself.
Apparently not.
Nope. Not at all.
Okay. Is this me echoing or you echoing Trace James?
Trace James said I am off to VR stream where I get better quality, so I'm guessing that they forgot to turn off mine.
There we are. There we are. There it is.
Every time without fail.
Not without fail. Sometimes it is me.
No, you're the YouTuber. You're supposed to never accept fault ever?
Never, ever, never?
Never, ever, never.
Yeah.
Which, speaking of accepting faults, that reminds me, I need to do my other two readings for Creator Accountability Network. I keep fucking forgetting to.
Yeah, no, it's okay. They give you a grace period. I was a little bit late when on my third one. But it's not like if you're one day over, they're like, okay, you're canceled, gone.
Spooky boss them, god fucking damn it. Ooh. There, you got your redeem.
That sounded like you had. That sounded like one of my soundboard ooh-woos. That did not sound real.
It's because you've been hearing the soundboard ooh-woos.
No, it just...
God damn! Made me fucking say it again. Anyway.
You gonna say it?
One, no. Two, it's because in explaining the situation to you, it happened. It happened again. I said the word again without meaning to say the word again. That's why.
Oh, it wasn't someone else redeemed it. It was I tricked you accidentally. And didn't even notice it.
Accidentally, my left fucking testicle.
Ooh,
whoa, ooh, whoa, ooh, whoa.
Said it a bunch. You see, I don't need to trick you. I can just make you say it. I mean, that one's not technically an ooh-woo, but I do like that one.
Ooh-woo. Stupid goddamn fucking ooh-woos.
Here we go.
I can't pay Piper enough to have them stop doing that.
I'm sure they will be happy to hear you say that. Piper, send the offer. Better be a big offer. My hats were once again not prepared. Thank you for the hydrate.
You are not prepared. Or some other quote from World of Warcraft.
Oh, is that a World of Warcraft quote? I wouldn't know.
Yeah, it's from Burning Crusade. Illidan says it to the players in the trailer for the first expansion.
When am I ever prepared? Yeah. though. See, I'm trying to adjust my glasses, but it's not, because that's what I do after I put this hat on.
There's no glasses there at all.
Nope. Not at all. Professor Tesla says, "Owu? Why are we Professor Tesla? Do we like Tesla?"
So Professor Tesla's had that name since before Elon had his right-wing crash out.
So before 1999? Okay, time to uwu on the Tesla. We'll have to rent a Cybertruck and just sit on top and uwu. I saw a Cybertruck. I was closer than I've ever seen one before, and it just, every time I see these things, it's just like, it's just fucking ugly. Even like, all the political stuff aside, it's not actually bulletproof, and why would you even want a car to be bulletproof in the first place, and all the macho bullshit that it does. It's just an ugly car. I don't understand why anyone likes it.
It's cool. It's of the future, man. I like my N64 low poly model.
This may as well segue us into, this wasn't going to be my first news story, but since we're talking about it, a Tesla Cybertruck owner says kids at his son's baseball practice laughed at a Cybertruck after it was towed. Adds 28 kids went from thinking the Cybertruck was cool to pointing and laughing. I'm not going to read the article. The headline says it all. It's just like, yeah, no, it's a Cybertruck. It was in its natural environment of the back of a flatbed.
Also, Mionin Stankfoot, thank you very much for the 1,000-bit cheer. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so this is the story. And
this is the story all about how I got laughed at.
I'm just curious how they got a hold of this story, because like this guy is named and everything, which we don't need to get into that, but like, whose Cybertruck bust down, they decided that the thing to do is to call up a news agency and be like, hey, I need to tell you that 28 children at a baseball game laughed at me. I need this to be published in the news, that I'm being humiliated by children because of my car.
Donald Trump and Elon Musk would both pull that move. And they would think it's a power play.
How is that a power play?
Remember when Elon Musk had his fucking breakdown because Tim Walz was like dancing around about Tesla stock going down, and he called it like profoundly evil? This is just that. This is that. This is people leading by example.
Yeah, so he would have the breakdown and be like, children laugh at me. It's evil that their parents are brainwashing them into laughing at me.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah. It's just, I don't understand why anyone likes that stupid truck. Like, even like I said, putting aside all the Musk shit, it's just a bad truck.
I do think there is an aspect, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think there's an aspect of it where people thought it was cool because like everything that Elon Musk was doing once upon a time was considered trendy and cool. They hop on that bagwagon, they pick it up, and then because they have spent so much money on the goddamn thing, now suddenly they're basically locked in. Like, oh no, I love this thing, as they cry in the amount of money they could have spent on literally multiple vehicles that all would be better.
That's the thing. Like, the one that I saw up close, it was a Foundation series, which means that guy paid, what is it, $50,000 extra to get the Foundation series?
Doesn't, like, it's not any fucking different.
Like, you paid a whole car extra so that you could have the same one as all the other ones, but it's got the word Foundation on its chassis, and in theory will get full self-driving at some point sooner than the non-Foundation ones.
Yeah, that's just a fucking scam.
Yeah, I mean, he's been promising full self-driving every year since about 2014, so it's been a year away for a decade now.
Self-driving for Teslas is coming around the same time that Jesus Christ is coming back.
Yeah. Otaku Senpai says the Cybertruck looks like a prop from a low-budget 80s sci-fi film. No, it's a high-budget 80s sci-fi film. It's what Blade Runner would have driven. You didn't watch the film enough to realize that there is no character called Blade Runner in the movie Blade Runner. And even after that's been around for long enough that he should have been able, like, I guarantee he's heard the correction at some point, but he still says it's the truck that Blade Runner would have driven. And I don't know if that's just him being an idiot or him doubling down on me like, no, I didn't misspeak. I meant what I said. And it makes sense because I can rewrite reality by just saying it.
He meant what he said, and Elon Musk's promise, 100%.
Yeah. 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 No, it's the same thing with Doge. Like, he's been promising full self-driving since 2014. Doge, initially the promise was I'm going to save $2 trillion before, I think he said fiscal year 2026, which starts in October. Mm-hmm. And then he revised it down to 1 trillion, and then he revised it down to like 200 billion. And even that is like, probably not. But even if you hit that, all the stuff that you've done have ended up costing an additional 100 and some odd million. So like, it's almost a wash.
Yeah, it's embarrassing because anybody that you have to ask yourself, is every adult who hears the claims from Elon Musk and thinks that they are legitimate and going to happen, is every one of those adults somebody who had a best friend with an uncle who worked at Nintendo who had a copy of Pokemon Gray? Because I remember all the time just kids being fucking, and I was one of them, kids being gullible about like lost cartridges and stuff. Because we were like, oh, you have an uncle who works at Nintendo, so you have the inside scoop on this. We never knew how to get any fucking evidence of that shit.
I mean,
those kids grew up to be Musk supporters.
It is based in a little bit of reality because there are games that were so disastrous for a company that like they stopped selling them and reacquired all the cartridges they could and then buried them in the desert.
I mean, yeah, that is.
Like, I want to say Custer's Revenge was one of them.
It's E.T. is the one that is
usually
ascribed to. It's
okay.
E.T. But that one actually has a more funny story associated with it because the common myth is that E.T. was such a disaster that it caused the video game crash of the 70s and 80s. When the reality is E.T. was a symptom of what caused the crash. The thing that caused the crash was there not being any regulations in the video game industry. There not being any standards for games. There not being any of that shit for companies. So companies would just get every licensed property they could and make whatever they could for the Atari as fast as possible. And it didn't matter if the thing was good or not. And so that ended up eroding trust in video gaming as a hobby. And then as a result of that, when Nintendo brought its stuff to North America, they had to basically disguise it as a VCR and sell it in the boys section of the toys section instead of the electronics section, so that it was seen as not a video game console, but an entertainment system.
Yeah, and that's also what kind of started them down the path of aggressive intellectual property defense.
Yes.
We're like, the problem with Atari was that anybody could make a game for Atari, resulting in games like E.T. and Custer's Revenge, which if you're not aware of Custer's Revenge,
it's a porn game.
Yeah, okay, but it's a porn game where you are playing as Colonel Custer, and the goal of the game is to rape a Native American lady.
Yep.
So Nintendo was like, we don't want that shit happening to our console, so we are going to have these security chips embedded in it so that only companies that we approve can make games for this.
Which famously was circumvented by Wisdom Tree. If you're familiar with that gaming company.
The Bible games, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The one company that Nintendo's afraid to sue. Okay, so yeah. Cybertruck. Done with that story. Headline story. So Trump was gifted a $400 million Boeing 747 that he was supposed to turn into Air Force One, and then the plan was he was going to turn it into Air Force One and then donate it to his presidential library in a way that would allow him to continue using it as a private jet after being president. So very clear bribe, essentially. And I don't know whether it's pronounced Qatar or Qatar. I've heard both. Qatar is the one that sounds better to my ears, so that's what I'll be saying. But I don't actually know which one is correct. But yeah, no, this is very clearly corruption. We've got a tweet about how, like,
I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts on this one.
Not according to the New York Times guy. But we'll get that one. Well, we'll get there. We'll get there when we get there.
Okay, so we're gonna be talking about Ben.
Ben. Cindy Vela says it's pronounced cuter. I know you're probably going for Cutter, but you spelled cuter.
I've always heard it as Qatar, so
yeah, me too.
That's just where I'm gonna default.
Yeah. So yeah, he got a jet in a very corrupt. Oh no, they meant cuter. Okay, that's fair. So he got a $400 million jet, and in order to turn it into Air Force One, it's going to cost $1 billion. So, like, may as well have just bought a jet at that point.
Also, at that point, what's wrong with the current Air Force One model that needs redoing? Because, like, Air Force One is obviously whatever plane the president happens to use primarily.
So we're going to get there too, because so the thing. Okay. I don't know that we actually need to read the article because I'm spoiling it before we even get there. Yeah, so essentially last time Trump was president, I don't think there is anything wrong with the current Air Force One. I haven't seen any information about that. I think it's just Trump wants nicer plane. And given how, like, when he sat down with the Prime Minister of Canada, he was all like, look at all the gold that I put in the White House. Isn't it great? Gold makes everything better. Which that is actually a thing that he brought up. I feel like it's just him wanting nicer things. So it doesn't actually matter. He doesn't need a new plane. He wants a new plane. And so what's funny about this is that in 2019, when he was president, he commissioned Boeing to upgrade Air Force One.
Yeah, because Air Force One currently is 2 planes.
Yeah.
There are 2 Boeing 747s. They are both about 35 years old. So, like, yeah, they could just upgrade that shit anytime they want.
Yeah. But the thing is, because it's the president's plane, the people that are working on it have to have all these security clearances, that you don't need to work in Trump's cabinet, apparently. But because of that, they have a staffing limitation for how many people they can find that are actually qualified to work on these planes and also have the security clearances. And so the planes that he commissioned to upgrade in 2019 are still not done and are projected to be done in like 2028. And so this one, they're like, at the absolute earliest, if everything goes perfectly according to plan, we can have it done by 2029 when you're no longer president. Or in theory, will no longer be president.
In theory. Stoff, thank you very much for the hydrate. I will say there is something... there was a moment, if you've noticed, that the White House has been doing a 2-tiered media briefing, where there's one in the morning and one in the PM. Have you been seeing that?
No.
Okay, so this is fucking scary, but... the 2 media briefings have the legacy media coming in the morning, and then during the PM, they get YouTubers and streamers in because they are considered the new, more relevant media for Donald Trump now. So Tim Pool has been there, a bunch of fucking right-wing podcasters have been there, and there was one of them who played a game with Caroline Levitt. I finally remembered her name. My brain stopped memory holding it. And the game was Donald Trump trolling or truth, and he would ask like different things that Trump had done and if they're trolling or not. And the Donald Trump 2028 trolling or truth, Caroline Levitt said, actually, that one's probably trolling.
Yeah, but the fact that she can't say for sure.
Yeah, it's at the very least some people in the administration are going, now we're just selling the merch and it's lies.
Yeah.
Just a fucking hell. Stop with the woos. Stop.
Don't stop. Never stop. Yeah, so as far as the dual press pool thing goes, I'm not like, obviously Trump is the worst person to actually do this, and the people that are in being invited to the secondary one are going to be right-wing shitbags under Trump. But I'm actually not against having like a press pool for YouTubers and podcasters, because like legacy media is called legacy media for a reason. It's not the primary source of information for most people. I'd say probably under 30.
The only problem that I have with it, though, is like so theoretically,
there needs to be a good vetting procedure, so that you don't end up with Tim Pool in there,
and not just a better vetting procedure, but like, I'm gonna be honest, the fact that YouTubers, and I say this as a YouTuber who very frequently says stuff that may be considered very off color, I find it a bit frightening that we are held to no standard.
Yeah,
like we are held to absolutely zero standard of any kind from a professional environment.
This could be a way to kind of enforce a standard, is that if you want White House credentials, you need to meet these criteria first, which does run the risk of turning the whole reason why YouTube, or like why YouTubers and podcasters could potentially be valuable news sources into like it, basically pigeonholing them into becoming legacy media just on YouTube. So yeah, I don't know how to deal with that one. I don't of all the Trump policies that I've heard of, that is not one that made me immediately go, oh, this is gross and I hate it.
The reason that it scares me personally is because as a tool of the Trump administration, what we've been seeing is that legacy media that is more left-wing or does not comport to the Trump regime frequently loses their access to Trump and the White House briefings. We saw this with the Associated Press, and we're actually seeing it in the Pentagon, because in the Pentagon there is an area for news people there, and a rotation system was introduced there where like One American News Network and other places that are very frequently right-wing crazy mills got their positions in the fucking Pentagon. Like, it worries me because of the administration that we are seeing do it. I can have zero faith in this system because it is coming from this administration. That is technically a genetic fallacy, but I'm also willing to stand by it.
No, I get it. That's what I mean. Like, I'm not against having YouTubers and podcasters in the press pool on principle. I am against Trump doing it, because I know that he's not going to give it a fair shake. Like, I'm not saying that Cody from Some More News should be in the press pool too. I'm saying Tim Pool should not.
Yeah. Jasper Proxy says Tim Pool should not get a national voice. Unfortunately, he already does. Like, Tim Pool, Asmongold, and a bunch of other people who pretend to be the everyman, pretend to be the center, pretend to be the disenfranchised liberal. This has been Dave Rubin's shtick for years. Those people have cultivated an audience of millions. So it's not that getting to ask questions at the White House briefing is these people having the national stage. They already had it.
I'm sorry, you know what? It just occurred to me, if for those of you who watch Some More News, there is a puppet character called Warmbo. I feel like Warmbo should have press credentials.
Warmbo should have press credentials.
Give Warmbo the press credentials. I'd like to see.
Only if halfway through the White House briefing they have to do those really cringy advertisements.
Oh, yeah, Caroline leave it up at the front being like, and the right wing has reported on this so many times, and the left wing has reported on this so many times. Ground News can help you figure out which one. Oh my god, it's...
You also have to do the awkward pauses that Cody does. If you don't do those, then you're not actually doing some more news.
Well, yeah, you need the papers to shuffle while you do it, though.
Yeah, you need the fidget. You need the fidget for the pauses.
So I watched their episode today, and it was a bit disturbing because the autoplay popped up, it queued up one from like 6 years ago in the middle of the pandemic, and it was talking about Trump and fascism and everything, and it was frightening how much stuff was like, hey, these are things that he says he's going to do, but we are stopping him from doing it. Thankfully, he doesn't seem to be able to do any of these things. And all of the stuff was like, oh, that's stuff that he has already done in his second term now. Great.
Yay.
Yeah. So that's
Miss
fun.
Miss Caroline, Wombo has a question.
Something about corn cream. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend that I could come up with anything that they would. You know what? Where are we? Sean is asking, but is Warmbo currently shredded? Yes, and I like it that way because I actually don't like the character of Warmbo. Yeah, I find it kind of annoying, if I'm honest. But I get it. Everybody's got to have a shtick.
You gotta have a funny gimmick.
Yeah, no, Gary, leave Gary out of this.
You gotta have a funny gimmick.
Leave Gary out of this.
Can Eric Hovind come out to play?
Okay, that was just Kermit. I did get a number of people ask if I was just doing a Kermit impression to be Gary.
No,
So
that was us at the last second in an impromptu recording session that I had just gotten home to do.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. Father Ted creator Graham Linehan pleads not guilty to harassing a trans woman.
Of course he's going to plead not guilty, but at the same time...
Yeah. So here's the thing about this that I feel like I don't know how much the UK court system is going to apparently she was the girl was 17 when it happened. So a trans child. Okay, I didn't know she was 17 at the time. That will come into play later when we get into the article, but
I feel like there is no statement that ever is good that begins with "I didn't know she was 17 at the time."
I'm talking about other people's actions here, not me.
I know. I just wanted to point it out.
Yeah, so he was wearing a shirt that said trans women are not women when he went in to do his not guilty plea. So I feel like that could impact his case. I mean, like, hey, you wore a shirt that obviously is meant to make this person feel uncomfortable to court to deal with you harassing this person. Can you explain why you thought that was a good idea? Says if this is the one where Linehan was harassing her about her genitals. Oh, gross. I didn't actually get it. I didn't read the details about this, so just what they gave in this article.
Rhino, you know Marcy Rankton, the trans woman who was arrested in Florida, right?
No.
Okay, so TLDR, She was a trans woman arrested in Florida for using the bathroom at the Capitol as a trans woman. That's the TLDR of the situation.
Okay.
The details of which are she let law enforcement know that she was going to be going to the bathroom, and that they know in their heart of hearts that enforcing that law would be the wrong thing to do. And then they did it anyway, and now she's got a big trespassing charge. And when I went to Florida, it was for that arraignment. So the court case for that is going to be happening on June 11th, and I'm going to be going to
That's my birthday.
Tragic. Anyway, I am going to be going to the protest for the court case, and I just got out of a meeting earlier today with Equality Florida, and we were talking about the plans for making sure that we would be able to have a good protest there that would be able to accomplish the things that we needed to accomplish. One of the rules that we have to adhere to is, if you are going to the courthouse to support the defendant, in this case Marcy Rankton, if you are going to do that, you are not allowed to wear a shirt that says anything of any political affiliation or anything in regards to the defendant or to the accuser.
That can impact the case.
You are supposed, the plan is to go in.
You don't want the prosecutor to be able to get up there and be like, look at the kinds of people that this person attracts.
Yeah, the closest thing you can do is go in wearing a shirt of the same color, right? That's effectively what you can do. So knowing that, and having been privy to plans about shit like this, knowing what Lynham has done, it disgusts me, not just from the I would rather just burn that shirt on your body position, but also from the how do you not understand that this is not a good thing for you to do? How do you not fucking get that?
Yeah, no, I do not know. Let's see. I'm quickly looking it up. No, see, most of the articles about this didn't really give many details. So I'm having trouble finding whether or not this was the specific case. Teach what lesson? I was trying to figure out whether this was the 17-year-old girl, because that does impact this quite a bit. So he appeared at the magistrate's court on Monday and denied that he harassed the trans woman, Sophia Brooks. And apparently he also damaged her mobile phone at an event, the Battle of Ideas Festival. He was a speaker there. And yeah, he was abusing her on social media. Allegedly.
Jesus fucking Christ.
So yeah, he went outside with his supporters to give a little speech afterwards, wearing a shirt that read "Trans women are not women." And so this is where it becomes relevant whether or not she was a child when this happened. Because one of the things he said was, "For 6 years, ever since I began defending the rights of women and children against a dangerous ideology, I have faced harassment, abuse, and threats. I've lost a great deal, but I am still here, and I will not waver in my resolve." So if you harass a child in the furtherance of protecting children, you're not protecting children.
No, you're just being an asshole.
Just end of statement.
You are selecting
age of majority in the UK 17 instead of 18. You know what? Everyone under 25 is a child. Just go with insurance rules. And even
if
then,
your age combined with the color of your car affects our decision,
even
then
yeah. So before I started dating my current partner, I dated a 28-year-old for a couple months, and it was just there's such a disconnect here with just the age difference. And it was it's not that big of a gap, but
but it's enough.
It's enough. And it's no. Old man shakes fist at cloud. That's me.
Yeah, but the cloud deserves it. It's fine.
That's actually going to be the tagline of the other channel that I have to actually do something on now that I've mentioned it twice in a row. Is that like this, like, oh, welcome to the narrative drift, the place where I embrace my inevitable descent into becoming the man who shakes fist at Cloud. I'm still working on it. I'll come up with something better. So this is where
it should be old man shakes ass at Cloud.
Sure, clap them cheeks at that Cloud. I'm not. I don't know why clapping cheeks at a Cloud made me go here, but did you know that there's a honest for goodness real movie called Spermageddon?
What?
It's like Sausage Party, but like also kind of sex positive, but in like a good way, not just the Sausage Party, everybody have sex now way.
No, I didn't know this was a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing. It is apparently a it's an animated movie that it follows dual roles of like here's the couple that are having sex, and here's the anthropomorphic sperm, and they've got like dual plot lines going on. The writer of the movie, or one of the people behind it, described it as being inspired by Lord of the Rings, because the sperm go on an epic journey to find the egg.
That's just Bowser's Inside Story, but for a sperm. Because Bowser's Inside Story is an RPG where you're playing as Bowser and Mario and Luigi are in his bowels fighting through like bacterium and shit, and they're going on an adventure to help Bowser. It is a weird game, but it is fucking beautiful. That is all that is. Just instead of Mario and Luigi, it's a sperm.
Okay, well, I mean, spoiler, they do end up in the bowels at one point. Yeah, no, I haven't actually seen the movie, but I want to now. I don't know how I'm going to feel about it, but I feel like I need to see it. But yeah, speaking of sentient shit or whatever we were just talking about, Graham Linehan is a person. And is also the media in the UK is completely fucked up. Like every story that I found, this came from the Pink News. Every story I found that wasn't the Pink News was written from a very sympathetic perspective. Like they went out of their way to like portray Linehan as like being the victim here. It's like, come on, what? Like, why you gotta be like that?
I think it's because of the Supreme Court ruling. They're like, this is the way the winds are going, so this is the way we have to spin it.
No, they've been like that for a while. Like, it's you would basically never see anything saying anything about trans people in a positive light in any UK mainstream news outlet for like probably the last 5 years at least.
Stop says that's a kink that's off the table for me. Same with giant sperm. Paige Wilder says, what Supreme Court ruling? The one in the UK that effectively stripped trans women of their protections under the Equality Act.
His shirt was directly referencing that because apparently he was quoting the headline from the Daily Telegraph, which the headline was just "Trans women are not women," and that was basically like, as much as the Daily Telegraph is a right-wing rag, that is what that ruling boiled down to. But it's worse than that because the way it shook out is that effectively trans people are just not allowed to use public restrooms. Because if they use the one that matches with their sex assigned at birth, then they run afoul of this one law. But if they use the one that they identify with, then they run afoul of the new Supreme Court ruling. Like there's two conflicting things there, where basically now trans people aren't allowed to use the washroom.
The entire point of all of these rulings from the beginning has been to move trans people away from public life. It's the same way that hostile architecture is made to move homeless people out of public life. It is not to make life better for anyone. It is to make life more convenient for the people who are already not disadvantaged.
Yeah. Okay. So next up, we're going to talk about Christy Gnome, puppy killer. Gotta. I won't. I refuse to cover any stories with Christy Gnome without pointing out that she's a puppy murderer. She killed a puppy for getting the zoomies at a time that was inconvenient for her.
So do you just, every time you say her name, instead of like a lightning strike happening in the background, do you just hear a dog whimper?
Sure, I'll get that on the soundboard.
Just Christy Gnome.
Someone pull the dog's tail. I got the microphone ready. No, I would not do that to Puddles.
No, you get one of the ones that is from like a video game or some shit. Like you literally pull a whole "no dogs were harmed" in the recording of this video.
Get Alan Tudyk mimicking a dog. Yeah, so Christy Gnome won't acknowledge Trump's photo of Abrego Garcia's MS-13 tattoos was doctored. So this is from Forbes, which I'm kind of liking Forbes because they get a little bit salty in their there's less sane washing going on at Forbes than some of the other outlets I've noticed. So it says, Gnome, when asked repeatedly by Representative Eric Swalwell during a House hearing if the photo was edited to include the gang's moniker, she attempted to change the topic to justify Garcia's deportation. And when Swalwell pushed her on it, she said, I don't have any knowledge as to that photo you're pointing to. Which,
of course.
This is one of the things that struck me when I was watching the old Some More News video, is that Trump did the exact same thing back then. Is that like he would say, I have the best memory of anyone on the planet. I just don't remember anything that you asked me about that's even the remote bit controversial. And now that you're calling me out on saying I have the best memory on the planet, I also don't remember saying that. But Joe Biden's the one that we got to be worried about the cognitive decline. It was like, yeah, dither you say playing dumb. I say we just assume they are dumb. If they're going to play it, if they're going to play the part and play it so well, let's just assume they are done and, maybe take their toys away.
Yeah. I hate this timeline. I've told you this, right?
Yep.
I've told you I hate this timeline.
Yeah. And of course, worth mentioning anytime the Abrego Garcia stuff comes up is, so Gnome said that his deportation wasn't based off tattoos, it was based off an entire case. Yet the government has not presented any evidence.
They will never present that case.
They've never presented any evidence that he's actually a member of MS-13. The only thing they bring up is that there was a 2019 interview with a police officer and an anonymous source who said that he was suspected of being a gang member. And apparently he was supposed to be based out of the Long Island version of the gang, but he's never been to New York City. And the Hyattsville police, where the detective who interviewed that their source was located, the detective that is on leave for unknown reasons, we can guess it's a cop in the States. The police department that he worked at, though, said that at no time did they determine Abrego Garcia was a gang member. And anytime I've brought this up, I've gotten people in the comments talking about how, like, oh, no, it was settled in court like 3 separate times that he was a gang member. It's like, no, there were 2 instances of a judge relying on this supposed interview with the anonymous source to say that he was a gang member to come to a conclusion without actually doing anything amounting to an investigation or cross-examination or anything.
Do you know one of the people who says the exact words that you said about his guilt, saying that he's guilty because of this?
Donald
Trump. No. I won't say his name because he doesn't deserve the notoriety, but he's a I'll just say he's agnostic about things. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to run to the restroom, so I apologize.
I thought that's what you did at the beginning of the stream. No, he's gone already. But yeah, so is fake tattoos that they won't even acknowledge that they faked. Like it's so easy for them to give an out to say like, oh yeah, no, the tattoos that actually were on his knuckles represent MS-13, and so we were just putting the letters above there so you could see what the tattoos represent. That's the easiest thing in the world to get out of. It's like, yeah, no, we didn't expect you to think that it was a real tattoo. But then Trump goes and he's a fucking moron, so he doubles down and is like, no, it says MS-13 right there. It's on the picture. I can show you. It's on the picture. See, it's on the picture. But it's very clearly not on his hands. And of course, there's like, as if he even need to do this, but like there are pictures of his hands from like, well, he was meeting with the senator a while ago, and yeah, while he was in the facility there was no tattoos, and it was like, what, did they give him makeup to cover up the MS-13 tattoo but not the symbols underneath them? Like, I don't know, it's pathetic and stupid. But yeah, now we just sit around waiting for Cirrus to come back and accidentally highlighting the word tattoo. Can I do this one too? Yeah, there we go. Apparently my highlighter is still active. Boop.
Oh woo. Oh woo. Oh woo.
Shh, nobody tell Cirrus. Remove highlights. Boop. Deactivate highlighter. There we go. That's how it's supposed to go. Oh, Fennec, if you're so tired, just go to bed. Oh. The first black and Democratic mayor of Omaha, Nebraska was elected mayor over the incumbent Republican. Nobody tell Cirrus what? I don't know what you're talking about. I was talking about this.
Ooh woo. Ooh woo. Ooh woo. Ooh woo. Ooh woo.
And I recognize that that was probably a joke, but I just use that as an excuse to push the button again.
Stupid goddamn fucking ooh woos.
Morse code and Cirrus ooh-woos. Oh, that's... I should sort them into short ones and long ones so I could do Morse code and just have like long ones on one button and the short ones on another. So yeah. Should we try to fill these pauses with dad jokes? I don't know. Should we? I don't do jokes off the top of my head though. I have to like, it has to be in the moment, and I find that the lists of dad jokes are just bad. Like they're not funny bad, they're just bad. But I'm gonna do that anyway because I can't think of any. Why was Cinderella so bad at soccer? She kept running away from the ball. What did the horse say after it tripped? Help! I've fallen and I can't giddy up. My God. Okay, this is one that I do appreciate and I do enjoy. Why can't you hear a pterodactyl going to the bathroom? Because the P is silent. That one I like. But that's such an old one that I don't know that it's worth telling anymore. And I just... Thanks for the hydrate, Conton83. But I did just slop it all over my pants. So now it looks like I wet myself. No, that one's dumb. That's also dumb. No, these are... How do you make an egg roll? You push it. R.I.P. boiling water, you will be missed. What do you call a cute door? Adorable? So I actually used to have a Dora the Explorer bowl that I would make a similar joke every time, like, oh, this is adorable. Every time I used it for any of the kids. Let's have my putt page wilder. So I don't know. I've been told to stop taking kitchen utensils, but that was a whisk I was willing to take. Okay. Better than the ones on this website. Like, what do elves learn in school? The alphabet. No. That's just dumb. What lights up a soccer stadium? A soccer match. Get it? Because match is fire. Okay, this is one that is good to keep in mind for protesters nowadays. What is red and bad for your teeth? A brick. Okay, so I do this one whenever I cook fish for dinner. So naturally, it's a good one. But what do you call a fish with no eyes? Psh! And that actually got to the point where when we got to the port in the science museum where they had cave fish with no eyes, my kids would go up to me, look, it's a fish. Pretty great. Until fucking Doug Ford shut down the science museum. It's not there anymore. Ostensibly, it's moving downtown, but the facilities aren't ready and it's already closed in the other thing, and I have my doubts about that. Yeah, no, these are all bad. Cirrus, come back. I can't go to the next topic without you. It'll just scroll Twitter and see if there's anything. Oh no, I don't. I'm not logged in that. See if there's anything new that I can bring up. Boop. Oh, yeah, I forgot. This is... Okay. Darwin to Jesus, the argument from rational certainty, why atheism cannot be true. Of course this one first comes back, isn't it? I thought I saw on Twitch. I used to believe that atheism couldn't be refuted, but then I discovered the following. Oh, it's a thread. Fuck you. Oh my god. No. Okay. This is... No, we're not doing this. It's got multiple sections. And so section 2 has multiple subsections. So there's 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, and they're all like gigantic paragraphs. I was like, this is Twitter, man. Ain't nobody reading that shit. So it's a transcendental argument for the existence of God. Okay, so that explains why you need all the fucking paragraphs of shit, because you have to hide the fact that your argument is going to eventually boil down to I defined God as existing, therefore he exists, behind a bunch of sophistry to make it seem like that's not what you're saying. But yeah, that's the transcendental argument for God, I believe, if I am correct. Transcendental argument for God. Oh no, so that's the okay. It's related to the ontological argument, which is the definition one. I thought there were maybe like subcategories of each other. So the transcendental argument is the argument that proves the existence of God by appealing to necessary conditions. So if there is a transcendental unity of appreciation, God exists. There is a transcendental unity of appreciation, therefore God exists. So it's not defining God into existence. It's asserting that this thing is a transcendental thing and it exists, and it can only exist if there is a God, therefore there is a God. Okay, when Cyrus said he had to use the washroom, I did not realize he was going to be dropping a deuce. I can need to just I'm doing a thing. Boop. There, Cyrus's avatar is back. Yeah, too far. How big is God's dick, and why does he? And does he have nipples? And if so, why? Well, I don't know how big his dick is, but if Moses can tell you whether or not he's got any junk in the trunk, because there is a Bible story where God moons Moses. That is a thing that happens in the Bible, where God's like, I can't show you. We can't look at each other face to face because I'm so amazing that you'll die. So hide behind that rock, and I will show you my butt. And so Moses hides behind the rock, and God moons him. So yeah, that is the thing that I want to know. Why does God have nipples, and if so, why? I guess they would say he's a clueless expert says I guess his ass is not as amazing. So there's actually a misprint of one of the King James Bibles that I forget what it was supposed to say originally, but it came out as surely he hath showed us his great ass. Oh, it was greatness. He has showed us his greatness, but the printer missed a letter or something, and so it came out great ass. So yeah, that's fun. Does God have a belly button? No. So God the Father is spirit. Jesus is the Son. So God the Father doesn't have a physical form, so he wouldn't have any of that stuff. But Jesus came out the birth canal, so he would have all that fun stuff like nipples and belly buttons and whatnot. The real question is, did Adam and Eve have belly buttons? Because they didn't come out no uterus. There's no placenta attached to them. Yeah, in the Old Testament, God did run around with a physical body at times. Don't tell Christians that, because that doesn't work for them. Oh, I fucking hate logic speak. Sorry, I have the Wikipedia article open for the transcendental argument. So it's like, if possibly P, then necessarily Q. Actually P, therefore necessarily Q. And then you can reverse that, be like, if possibly P, then necessarily Q. Actually not Q, therefore necessarily not P. Yeah, Cyrus is not P. He is necessarily poo. Does God need to use the bathroom? There are actually videos about whether or not Jesus pooped on the YouTubes. You can watch apologists talk about whether or not Jesus had to poop. And the answer ends up being, yes, Jesus did have to poop. Because he was human, with all that entails. And he couldn't just magic it away. So at some point during his ministry, at many points during his ministry, Jesus had to stick his hand in between his butt cheeks and wipe the smeared shit out from his butthole. Our holy Lord and Savior. Kind of takes the magic out of it when you think of the just what's involved with everyday living. Oh, there's another tweet where capturing Christianity is oh, he's sad. He says, I spent an entire year carefully researching Sola Scriptura, and the results shocked even me. I uncovered 9 powerful reasons why this Protestant doctrine doesn't hold up. And then he retweeted that, saying, it's only been a few hours, so I'm hoping the critical engagement gets better, but so far the comments in reply to my latest video have been incredibly underwhelming. Like, poor baby, people don't like him, or his stuff. Oh, Tesla's posting a video of their robot dancing. Okay. Looks like they've accomplished roughly equivalent to what Boston Dynamics did, probably by using work that Boston Dynamics has already done. But that's like, the Boston Dynamics things have been super impressive for like a decade now, but like they're not getting practical. So I don't understand why. Like people are saying that, like, oh, this proves that Elon was right when he said we'd have a robot or whatever. Ooh, even better point. How much do you want to bet that this is another only partially robotic thing and is actually being controlled by like someone in a motion capture suit or something? Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Let's get that up on the screen so y'all can see the bot dancing. Dancing bot. Like, that would be more impressive if Boston Dynamics weren't already around. Yeah, hot take, if you want a Star Wars droids, you want a slave class because that's what droids are in Star Wars. Counter hot take, having non-sentient, like, okay, the Star Wars style droids, no, I don't want that because those, like, they are sentient, they have emotions, they get scared. I don't want to have slaves, things that I own that have emotions and sentience and intelligence and can feel pain. Yeah, that's also established. Jabba tortures his droids. But like, as far as a non-sentient, non-sapient robot that just does what you tell it to, I could get behind that. I could, like, if that was actually reliable and would actually do what you want it to do instead of misunderstanding your commands and whatnot. Mr. Drakus says, LOL, that's 100% someone in a suit again. No way.
Why am I a turd?
I don't know. Why are you a turd?
Is it because my bowels decided that I was going to be just yeeting myself today?
You made me riff for like 15 minutes. The results are not my fault.
I am sorry that you, as an entertainer by trade, had to do your job.
Yeah, no, normally I would have just carried on with my job, but like, I don't know. I'm not going to do a whole news item without you. So we're
That's
watching,
entirely fair.
We're watching the Elon robot thing that I'm kind of 50-50 on whether this is just like either AI generated or a guy in a mocap suit. Someone said it's a person in a suit. It's not a person in a suit because the waist is way too thin. Like,
it may just be a robot that is programmed to respond to mocap, so it's not doing these things on its own.
Yeah,
there is a person who is effectively doing the things that causes it to mimic that. I am unfamiliar with the tech, so I have no way of knowing.
So that tech in itself is like controlling something with mocap to do that would still be very impressive. But like, best case scenario for Tesla here, if it's doing that completely autonomously, it's a pre-programmed thing, and Boston Dynamics has been doing shit like this for like a decade now. So like, yeah, impressive, but like not the not the household personal servant thing that you were advertising it as. Like, I don't need my robot to dance. I need my robot to understand what I am saying and do what I tell it to.
Otherwise, it might take over the world.
And then that led to a discussion. Well, and then that led to a discussion about Star Wars droids and how, like, no, I don't want a Star Wars droid because I do not want the thing that I, like, the object in my house that I own that I am bossing around to have feelings and emotions and internal experiences.
Oh my. You don't want a C-3PO to judge you silently on all of your actions?
When was C-3PO ever judging silently?
Nobody was paying attention to him, so it might as well have been.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, no, the Star Wars droids are hella problematic. But yeah, anyway, moving on. Oh, sticking with Musk.
I don't like those words.
Musk's Grok AI can't stop talking about white genocide. So they have fixed it now, but
that's not a good sign.
Apparently, a chatbot developed by Elon Musk's multi-billion-dollar artificial intelligence startup XAI appears to be suffering from a glitch Wednesday. It's like, would we call it a glitch? Is this glitching?
It's just a little glitch. It's just talking about wiping out the white race. That's just a tiny glitch.
Yeah, but it
small.
But it wouldn't even, it would do it without prompting. Like, the Pope tweeted something, and Grok AI responded to the Pope with, so, about that song about white genocide, blah, 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 blah. And it's doing the thing that chatbots do, where it's like, I'm not saying there is a white genocide, but I'm also not saying there's not a white genocide.
I'm just saying that hypothetically, for the sake of argument, if a genocide was happening of the white variety, maybe, just possibly, just tiny itty bitty, maybe tiny bit, maybe possibly.
Well, so let's read what it said. So when asked, this is its response to being asked to confirm the salary of Toronto Blue Jays player Max Scherzer. So it said, hey, could you tell me this person's salary? It said, the claim of white genocide in South Africa is highly debated. Some argue white farmers face disproportionate violence, with groups like AfriForum reporting a high murder rates and citing racial motives, such as the Kill the Boer song. Grok responded. That's what it said when asked to confirm some guy's salary in Toronto.
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
And it said has done the same in replies to hundreds of other tweets, including one from newly appointed Pope Leo XIV. So the Pope tweeted something, and Grok was like, hey, so about that white genocide in South Africa.
Like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, my guy. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah. So if you're not familiar, Boer is apparently a word used to refer to white people in South Africa.
Isn't it funny how we hate immigrants so much, but we're letting a whole bunch of immigrants into the United States right now based solely on the fact that
pretty sure we have a tweet for that. If we don't, I forgot to grab a story for it.
And just in case, reading the news headline, we're letting a lot of white Africans into the United States, like specifically white African. This is kind of weird.
Yeah, no, there's not only are you letting them in, you are paying for the plane to get there. Like every other country on the planet, no more refugee status. But the white people from South Africa, oh no, we will send a plane to pick you up. We can't get that guy that we accidentally sent to El Salvador. But, like, you guys in South Africa, oh, you poor babies. You will get a plane to be brought to United States. Now, I'm not saying these people specifically are not in a bad situation. Like, you don't uproot your life and flee to another country seeking refugee status.
Yeah, because you don't do that for no reason.
You don't do that for no reason. So I'm not saying, like, this is not a judgment against these people. I have no idea what their situation is. But it is quite telling that, like, oh, you're a refugee and you're brown? No, we're not taking those. Oh, you're a refugee and you're white? Let's roll out the red carpet and send a plane to pick you up. It's disgusting and I don't know. I don't know what else to say other than disgusting. So yeah, Musk, who is originally from South Africa, we should all remember. He does believe in white genocide in South Africa. He says that apparently he's not allowed to operate Starlink within South Africa simply because he's not black.
I doubt that's the reason why.
I don't know what the real reason is, but I would argue that at this point it's a national security risk. We can't let this guy who clearly has he's just trying to go on a power trip in the United States. We can't let him be in control of our internet over here. Because, like, we've seen him do shit like shut off Ukraine's internet at crucial times in the war.
Oh, so actually, I just looked this up because I got curious. So the South African government denied that claim. Obviously, it was going to no matter what. But the real reason that he can't have Starlink in South Africa is to have Starlink in South Africa, it needs to obtain specific network and service licenses, which both require a 30% ownership from disadvantaged groups in South Africa. Okay. That's why he doesn't have them there. Because he would need to share money. He would have to share money. Okay, cool. God, I love the world.
That seems perfectly reasonable to me, especially from someone who benefited so much from apartheid.
And government subsidies.
Mm-hmm. But, yeah, no, Trump also, in case you were wondering, Trump also got on board with this and was like, South Africa is confiscating land and treating certain classes of people very badly. So, Elon the welfare queen. That he is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, almost literally, all of his money at this point comes from the government. And he's eaten the lobster dinners on the government's dime. So that is almost literally the picture that's usually painted of the welfare queen.
Yep.
Like, I don't know, maybe he doesn't like lobster, but that's the example that's always used. I'm sure you all have heard that. And of course, if you look into it, the trope of the welfare queen, it doesn't actually exist. It's that there was one person who engaged in quite a bit of fraud and then was caught and went to jail. But because one of the things she was defrauding was welfare, that she became the poster for the welfare queen. And, yeah, so despite the fact that it happened literally once, it kind of stuck around. Okay, well, that's our stories. Shall we go to tweets?
Sure, why not?
So we're starting with Eric. Not Eric Hoven. New York Times guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Eric Lipton, the New York Times. This is regarding Trump receiving a $400 million jet as a gift from Qatar, and in such a way that would allow him to use it as his private jet after all is said and done. And people saying, like, hey, that's obviously corrupt. So his reaction to people saying that that is corrupt is to say corruption requires explicit quid pro quo. It's not corrupt to take an action that aligns with the interest of a person who gives you a gift unless the official action was in direct response to that gift. A bribe. Terms matter. Accuracy and fairness matters, regardless of what social media wants.
Is he an idiot?
I think so.
Because
basically that means that it can only be corrupt.
it can only be quid pro quo. It can only be corrupt if it happens within like a couple seconds of the action. But if he waits like a week or two,
not even that. You can just say that that's what I was planning on doing anyways. In that case, in order for it to actually be corrupt or quid pro quo, you have to like be actively saying like, "Hey, I am giving you this specifically in exchange for the thing that I want," and then the other person go like, "Yes, I am receiving this, and I will in exchange for that give you the thing that you want." And we have all said that on camera for everybody to hear. So now it's corrupt. Like that's the threshold he has set up. I am receiving the sentient sperm that now has to go on a journey to the ovaries.
I am receiving you.
God. Dark Falcon says, no, corruption does not require explicit quid pro quo. Implicit works just as well. Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
If explicit quid quo pro isn't there, store-bought will do.
Right. So, yeah. These are the people running the New York Times. Is it any wonder they run the headlines that they do?
No, not really.
I don't know if you follow the account but on Blue Sky there's an account that's New York Times PitchBot, and it always just like they write New York Times headlines that they think would be kind of funny. It's an account worth a follow. Let's see if I can pull up any examples. Okay, all I'm getting is actual New York Times things with people responding being like, wait, is this the New York Times PitchBot? Come on, where's the account? There it is. So like, are liberals mad at Pete Hegseth and Matt Gaetz for sexually assaulting women, or are they mad at them for being Republicans? By Jonathan Chait. You're not reacting.
There was a thing going on in the chat as well between a couple of members there. I don't understand what you're talking about, Zero Life King. I feel like you may have tismed over those words a bit.
Is this in my chat or yours?
It's in my chat. It's in my chat. And Zero Life King's a real life friend of mine as well. So like I generally assume they mean the best, but this one is. I don't understand how the synapse is connected on this one. The thing was, this is a Shawshank Redemption tweet. Why are you being so obtuse? And then when Stoff asked, what are you on about? They just posted the gif from Shawshank Redemption. How can you be so obtuse? But I don't get it. Oh, okay. So I understand. You're saying that Eric Lipton is willfully being obtuse in the tweet. Yeah, no, there are a lot of assumptions between those synapses that needed to be connected there. That made a lot more sense in your head than it did when it was delivered.
So we've got whether it's Hillary Clinton sharing a risotto recipe over email on a private server, or Donald Trump choosing to fly in a plane packed with the electronics of a foreign country, both leaders have tested the boundaries of acceptable security practices.
Yep.
It's like
whether it's eating a $10 meal or okay.
The emoluments clause of the Constitution makes no specific mention of Qatar or Boeing 747-8 jumbo jets, so it's hard to understand why the Democratic Party is denouncing this incredible gift to our president. By Jonathan Turley.
Oh my god, that's the fucking. That's just the fucking. The Constitution doesn't explicitly state. That every freaking originalist tries to use for everything. Oh my god. Randall says, wait, is that real? No, if you listen to the context from quite literally 45 seconds ago, you would know that that's not real.
This is the New York Times
hypothetical. This is hypothetical New York Times headline.
And yeah, every now and then they get one that actually does come out pretty close to it later. So here's an actual. Like this is an actual headline apparently on NewYorkTimes.com. I will double check this after I read it to make sure that it's actually real, because this is just a screenshot after all. Okay. But why has the closet taken on a new allure? Long a place of hiding and shame, it's now being reconsidered in queer culture and beyond. I wonder if there's anything going on right now that is making the closet seem more alluring to queer people.
Jesus Christ. I said, oh, satire. Yeah, satire New York Times. I'm willing to say the New York Times has gone downhill, but like I think it's more. I think Washington Post has gotten way worse. They
have, well, yeah, WAPO's owned by Bezos, right?
Yeah,
Bezos. Yeah. So the closet one, they have changed the headline, but it's real. The new headline is "Coming out of the closet was a liberation. Why are some peeking back in?" With the same subheadline of "Long a place of hiding and shame. It's now being reconsidered in queer culture and beyond."
Wait, that actually is a real one now?
That is actually a real one. That is on NewYorkTimes.com, published on May 12th.
Can I go kick in the door of the New York Times?
Oh my!
And just like, because like I can walk to CNN headquarters.
So I didn't see the last word here, but I got very confused for a second because the URL has the article as gay-closet-pee-wee. I was like, what? And it was Pee Wee Herman. So I'm guessing it has something to. Yeah, there's a biographical documentary, Pee Wee as himself. Whatever. I'm not reading that.
I don't like this timeline.
You don't like this? You don't like this Times byline?
I don't like you. I'm kidding.
Hey, one of the things that I did to fill dead air while you were gone was look up a list of dad jokes and read them. And all of the ones that you find in lists are worse than the ones that I come up with on my own.
You could have just like gone to the EDH Rec podcast and they begin every single thing with a dad joke from every member of the podcast.
Yeah. Pastor Greg Locke says the most ignorant, deceptive, fictitious
man.
Yeah, the most ignorant, deceptive, fictitious, clueless, and dishonest statement of the century is Free Palestine.
I know most of the deaths that have happened in Palestine have been civilian deaths. I'm fairly certain that there's nothing inherently wrong with saying, "Hey, maybe those civilians,
maybe those
civilians don't deserve to fucking die."
Yeah.
Also, there is a statement that has been made from certain members of the atheist community that makes me just really fucking angry, and it's usually, actually, no, this is a culture of people who would oppress gay people if they had the chance. Don't defend them. I'm like, actually, while you may be correct in some ways, hold on, I do want to finish this one.
Yeah, okay.
While you may be correct in some ways there, please understand that when it comes to Muslim theocracy, which is what you're worried about, most of the victims of Muslim theocracy are just fucking Muslims.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, sure, why not? Let's just throw the entire citizenry under the bus. Morons.
But then there's also the kid, like, because some people might want to do harm to gay people or LGBTQ people, that is not an excuse to fire missiles at their babies.
No, it's not.
Like, yeah. Oh, Progress Only is saying he doesn't have a tent anymore. What happened to his tent? Did it get hit by a tornado? Did he experience the righteous judgment of God?
Does he actually have his office again? Like, does he have his...
I hope it's bad news for him. Now I'm looking it up. Greg Locke tent. Well, that's from January 2024, so this is old news if it is. Social media, the tent the church uses as a gathering space. Oh yeah, no, I remember this. Has it still not been fixed?
I'd say that feels like a thing that would be fixed within a week. Greg Locke's got more money than sense.
It's a fucking tent. I imagine it got fixed. Oh yeah, here we go. He finished at the tent in November. They signed a lease to move into a warehouse. They're moving from a tent to a warehouse. So yeah, I guess that's technically an upgrade.
It is like okay. So I will say this: I I would love to own a warehouse. Just a space to customize to bring friends over and play fucking games in. That sounds rad as fuck. Can I take Greg Locks? He doesn't need it.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Nah, the most ignorant, deceptive, fictitious, clueless, and dishonest statement of the century is Pastor Greg Locke. Indeed. All right, and we have Carl Meta. Says, Big Pharma's worst nightmare just came true. Trump and RFK Jr. exposed a decades-long scam, bleeding Americans dry. The room fell silent when Trump revealed why we pay 10 times more than Europe for identical drugs. You won't believe what you're about to hear.
We pay 10 times more because our insurance companies have a black book where they negotiate the prices higher so that they can discount the prices lower. That's the reason that happens, actually.
Here's the thing. I read, this was a whole long thread. I'm not doing the whole thing, but I read through it. They got the reason right, mostly.
Okay.
Americans pay more for drugs because other countries with socialized medicine, they didn't mention that the other countries have socialized medicine, they are you have more bargaining power with pharmaceutical companies when there's only one customer in the country. Like, hey, you want to sell your drugs in our country? Great. This is what we're willing to pay for it. If you don't like that, we'll grab one of the generic ones. And so countries other than the United States get better drug prices because they are starting from a stronger bargaining position. In the States, it's all a bunch of insurance companies doing who the fuck knows what. And on top of that, a lot of times the insurance companies, like, they make so much money even when they do cover things through like copays and deductibles and whatnot, that it almost doesn't hurt them to have the high prices.
Yeah.
And so drug companies are able to just jack up prices and do whatever the fuck they want.
You make an identical amount by selling a 20-cent pill for $140 as you do by selling 100 of those pills if the profit that you get is identical either way. So why not do the one that lowers your manufacturing costs effectively? Because you will only have to produce less. Like, it's stupid that that's the reality we live in. But like my grandma, who's on TRICARE, she is on military insurance, which is one of the best insurance policies you can have in America if you aren't rich and have fucking concierge medicine. Whenever she goes into the hospital and they give her an aspirin, it's $120. And it is not covered by her TRICARE insurance. And she was just sitting there telling me about that, and like, so why do you keep letting them prescribe it to you? Like, I was having this conversation this morning because Saki has not been able to get any of the medical issues that she's had for the past fucking year looked at, because despite our insurance saying that all of the places that we've talked to are in network, whenever they get called, they're like, no, we're not in network. What are you talking about? Because there doesn't have to be consistency there for some fucking reason. As we're talking about that, one of my family members go, oh yeah, but you're going to find that problem everywhere you go. I'm like, that doesn't fucking make it okay. What the fuck? Why would you even say that, you dumb? Anyway, and then my grandma is just like, oh yeah, when I go, they charge me this much for this. I'm like, so why do you keep letting them charge you that? Just bring a fucking bottle of aspirin yourself that you got over the counter. It's not fucking special. It's aspirin. Bring it with you. And when they're like, oh, we're going to charge you this, go, no, I have my own bottle. Fuck off. Stop this. You can do that. Why do you just let this fucking shit happen to you? Why are you all fucking morons?
They actually don't let you do that at Canadian hospitals, because if you bring your own medicine, then potentially the doctor will give you something that will conflict with that if they're not aware, like if it's not on your chart and it's not aware of it, and so like they just have a blanket policy. But also in a Canadian hospital, doesn't matter if it's a prescription that you're going to have to pay for at the pharmacy. If you get it at the hospital, it's free. So like there have been times when like I've had my kids at the hospital and they've been like, okay, so this is what we need to give you. To save you a little bit of money, we are not going to give you the prescription for that. We are just going to give it to you here. Even though it is something that, like, theoretically we should just give you the prescription and send you on your way, we're just going to give you a shot with that here instead of the pills that you get at the pharmacy, because that way you don't have to pay for it. So it's pretty great that way. But the thing about this thread is, while they did identify the correct cause, they never mentioned that it's because we have socialized healthcare that it's cheaper. They tried to frame it as I'm kind of glad that they called it out, but like, one of the things that often comes up, and I don't know if it's pharmaceutical companies that this originates from, but one of the things that I hear all the time when I talk about this is like, oh, well, the reason American healthcare is more expensive is because we got to pay for the research and development.
We've already fucking paid for the research and development for the diabetes medications. We did that fucking 30 years ago.
Yeah, and the Canadian who invented that sold the patent for $1 with the intention of it being available for cheap for everybody.
Everybody is willing to go to bat for the multi-billionaire that is cucking them.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, I looked into this a while ago, before Trump did all his budgetary slashing and whatnot. The vast majority of research and development costs were government grants that go to, like, research hospitals and whatnot. They were not pharmaceutical companies footing the bill. It was already paid for by taxes. So, like, no, the R&D costs are coming out of the taxpayer's pocket already. So, like, no, that's not why you have to pay so much more for healthcare. That's just a lie. So I'm glad that they called that out for the lie. However, the way that Trump has decided to deal with this, which this person's saying such a good thing, rather than just be like, okay, we are going to socialize our healthcare as well so that we can bargain with these pharmaceutical companies from a position of strength, he just issued an executive order being like, hey, with price controls are what he does, which Republicans have historically been against price controls. Anytime there's price gouging happening and the Democrats are like, hey, let's stop that, let's pass some measures to make it so that you can't do price gouging, the Republicans have been like, oh, free market this, free market that, invisible hand, blah, blah, blah. No, they got to be allowed to do that. But now with this, Trump is just being like, okay, you're only allowed to charge the same as the lowest price in any of the other countries. So what he's trying to do is he's trying to get pharmaceutical companies not to lower prices for Americans, but to drive up prices for the rest of the world.
I hate this timeline.
Yeah, like that.
I really and truly hate
that
this
is
timeline.
Almost explicitly his goal with this, is just to make it more expensive for other countries, not because he doesn't want to make it better for Americans. He just wants there to not be the easy talking point of, hey, we have free healthcare. But again, like, I don't know. I feel like that's not going to work. I hope that's not going to work, because I happen to be in one of those other countries, and Canada doesn't have the cheapest drug prices in the world, but it's cheaper than the States.
It is cheaper than the States, but I'm so tired. And this, I need to contact Raj and see how much longer he's got on editing that essay. I want to scream.
You've been talking about that for ages. I want to see it.
Yeah, that's kind of... Look, I really want it done too.
But you also
really
want it to be done well.
Yes, because once he's done with it, I'm going to be watching it through again and putting in edits where I feel like they're needed on top of it. So even once he's done with it, it's probably not going to be done.
Okay, but you can still upload it to a Google Drive and send me the link.
I mean, I can do that. You're not wrong.
All right. Next up, this was a comment on one of my videos that science is wrong a lot because it removes spirit and only looks at the human in one-dimensional plane. Also, science is wrong on the cause of climate change, gender, religion, ... So...
what? Science is wrong a lot because it removes spirit and only looks at the No, that's
It's like, first off, it looks at people in at least 4 dimensions.
yeah, that is a confusing statement that doesn't seem based in reality at all.
But also, like, you're telling on yourself with the last sentence. Like, it's wrong about climate change, gender, and religion, and more. It's like, if you're willing, okay, if you have to say that, like, all these, like, I have to throw out the conclusions of all of the experts in these fields in order to hold the position that I do, maybe you're just wrong.
Yeah. Like, at a certain point, you just kind of accept that you are not saying correct things, and you're trying desperately to justify not saying correct things. It is more important for you to feel right than it is for you to be right.
Eidetic X says planes are not one-dimensional. That is correct. They are two-dimensional. They have length and width.
No, planes are three-dimensional because they fly in the air.
Until they hit a building.
Until they hit a building, you're right. Or a helicopter.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, so that was a fun little nonsensical comment that I got that kind of made me giggle. Oh, here we go. Libs of TikTok says, breaking. Democratic protesters stormed the Rayburn building and staged an insurrection in D.C. today. I'm shaking. This is worse than Pearl Harbor and 9/11.
What? What kind of a pussy-ass statement is that?
Oh, my God. Yeah, so if you're unfamiliar, there was a protest. There was a budget meeting where they were going to talk about cutting Medicare and Medicaid. And so there was a protest. As you can see in this picture, a bunch of disabled people showed up in their wheelchairs to protest. A bunch of non-disabled people showed up. A bunch of people showed up. But they didn't have a permit to protest. It was a spontaneous thing. And they were interrupting the proceedings. It was civil disobedience.
I'm also just going to say, the concept of needing a permit to protest is astoundingly stupid. Just throwing that out there as my own opinion as somebody who's gone to protests. I have always thought
that was weird. It's like you have to ask the government for permission to protest the government.
Yeah, no.
That feels like an easy to abuse system.
Yeah, that's very stupid.
Yeah, but like, so the end result of this was somewhere around 25 people got arrested because they refused to leave when they were told to leave. But like, it's civil disobedience. Like, how many times was Martin Luther King Jr. arrested?
I mean, his letter to the white moderate was famously written in jail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's called a letter from a Birmingham jail.
Mm-hmm.
Or is that a different letter?
No, that is the letter from the Birmingham jail.
Because I'm like, maybe there's another one that has that title that but I'm like, by the contents, yeah, no, that sounds like it is the Birmingham jail one. But yeah, no, it's like getting arrested protesting is as American as apple pie, which was famously not actually invented in America, so it's like French or something.
It's as American as chicken tendies.
It's as American as claiming that something that isn't actually American is American.
Yeah, that's as American as you can get.
Yeah. Oh. I don't know if I should share this story. Because it does involve me. It does involve me confessing to a crime.
Oh, then maybe you don't.
It's not one that I have any reason to believe would be prosecuted.
It's still
It's a funny story though.
But you want to be clean on OPSEC.
Okay, so Cyrus, have you seen Sinners?
No, I have not.
Okay, it is good. I enjoyed it. For the record, I do not like horror movies.
Okay,
but I still enjoyed this one.
Oh, whoa.
Oh, here we go. Olivia Williams says, seriously, the watching people's to like ratio is dismal. People's like and subscribe, or Rhino will like you half as much as you deserve. Yeah, so I saw Sinners. Music from it is fantastic. It's phenomenal. And so I pulled up the soundtrack on YouTube Music. But one of the things that I do, like, I don't like using YouTube Music. For many reasons.
Oh, well.
The apples we grew were best for alcohol/cider. Yeah. My mother has one of those trees in her backyard, and the apples will fall and naturally rot. So she gets a bazillion yellow jackets in her yard, but none of them will sting you because they're too drunk to know what's going on. Yeah. So anyway, I don't like using YouTube Music. So or like any of the streaming things, I like to like actually have my media. So I recorded the soundtrack into MP3 files that I now have on my hard drive. So technically, that is piracy.
Yeah.
I was doing that while I was in the process of listening to my, like, I had it playing and recording in the background while my partner was talking to me about a revelation that she had about like some of her childhood experiences and how like how coming at that from like a different racial perspective imbues it with a very different feeling depending on how you're looking at it. So like, because she is mixed race, and so she was like talking about her experiences from like the black perspective, and so I was sitting there and like, I'm doing like the whitest thing that it is possible to do right now. Like, I am a white man sitting here stealing black music as you tell me about the black experience. just like Elvis. I'm just like Elvis.
So long as you don't put it in a museum,
Well,
then at least you're not doing it as bad as the British and also us.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I thought that was amusing. The juxtaposition of, you know, being informed on the black experience while simultaneously being a white guy stealing black music.
Yeah.
It's a really good movie, though. Really good movie.
I do need to see it. Unfortunately, the movie budget is effectively already called because Saki wants to see Lilo and Stitch. And, you know, no matter how many times I tell her that Lilo and Stitch already exists, actually, that's not going to change the fact that she wants to go see it.
Yeah. Probably the funniest review I've seen of Sinners was one that complained that the sex scenes weren't very good. And I'm just like, what
a world to live in.
Why? Like, no, I don't make my decisions based on which, like, I don't make my decisions on which movies to go see based on how good I think the sex scenes are going to be. If I want to see a sex scene, that's what porn is for. You can just watch porn. I want to see a good story. If a hot, steamy, sweaty sex scene drives the story and is thematically appropriate or whatever, I'm not against it. But, like, I'm not going to my normal movies to see sex.
Then again, there's all those people who watched Arcane just to see the sex scene between Caitlyn and Vi, so I can't. I'm used to this weirdness on the internet.
Yeah, no, I just thought it was funny.
Drellick says, but they're trying to outlaw porn now. Yeah, there is,
Go to surfshark.com/ViceRhino. No, just Rhino, not Vice Rhino. You get 4 months for free, which is a limited time offer, which I've been offering for like 3 years now. I don't know what the limit is, but apparently it's limited.
It is weird.
They do change it every now and then. It bumps back and forth between 4 and 3, so I think that's that's how they technically get around calling it limited time.
Because it changes.
Yeah. It's limited. You won't always get the 4-month offer. Sometimes you'll get the 3-month offer. And then that one's limited because if you wait another 6 months, it'll go up to 4 months. I don't know. I don't write the copy. Well, I don't write the parts of the copy that they say I have to say. Okay,
like freaking,
no, Sean. So, did you hear that the Pope is black? Which, by the way, now on an entire video of them doing Blues Brothers music. So the Pope does not identify as black.
Yeah, so, that man also does not look black in the
slightest. That's not the point. That's actually something that was brought up in Sinners. That I probably wouldn't have noticed it if it weren't for dating the person that I am dating. Is that there is a white passing character that has, like, her grandfather was black, but she looks white. And at one point in the movie, the black people have their juke joint that they've set up, and the vampires that they don't know they're vampires yet. They just see that it's a bunch of white guys show up and are like, hey, can we come in and play some music for you and spend some money with you? And they're like, no, this is our space, not yours. And so they see the white passing person and say, well, how come she's there? And the response to that was not to explain, oh, her grandfather was black, so she gets it. It was, they just like cut it off and be like, because she's family. And my partner really appreciated that moment, because that's one of the things that mixed race people deal with, is that when they're in, like, someone who is mixed race but can be white passing, when they're in white spaces, they're seen as black, and when they're in black spaces, they're seen as white. And so
that's
they
fair.
kind of get the worst of both worlds.
I'm just,
in some ways.
For some reason, I am just now thinking of Uncle Ruckus going through his diatribe about, I suffer from reverse vitiligo. I was born a very beautiful white baby.
Yeah. So that's where race as a social construct comes in. So the Pope does have black ancestry, but he does not identify with that. He went to a Catholic school. He looks white. He didn't have the black experience, so he does not identify as black. And because it's a social construct, that's completely fair for him to be like, no, just because my grandfather's black doesn't mean I'm black. And on the flip side, it is entirely possible that there are people in his situation that look white but were raised black, and so they could have the black identity even looking white. And that's what made the Rachel Dolezal thing so insidious.
I love this timeline so much.
Yeah. Anyway, just thought that was some interesting nuance that I am aware of purely because of who I date. And I know, like, that scene in Sinners, I would have either not noticed it, or it would have just struck me as like, oh, that's kind of weird that they would say, like, I don't think they mentioned a familial connection. They're like, okay, whatever. So yeah, it's interesting being able to, this is why representation matters. It kind of expands the experience for everybody. Back to the tweets.
Yay!
Lauren Boebert. This is regarding to the executive order that doesn't actually mean anything with regards to drug prices, realistically. Okay, I saw someone request Gary earlier, so I will put Gary on. So she says, our president just lowered drug prices by 80% by executive order. Not how executive orders work. I feel like price controls have to go through Congress. So that's going to be challenged in court immediately.
Congress does have power of the purse.
Mm-hmm. So then they say, it's amazing the things that can be done when your president is beholden to no one other than the American people. So what's interesting is that
he's not beholden to us, though. His popularity is low as shit.
Yeah, no.
And yet he still does everything. What?
Yeah, but she also, like, it's wild to me that, like, a few months ago, if you told these people that drug prices are high in the States because they're not they don't have socialized healthcare, their response would be to pull out the line about how, like, oh, well, we pay for all the research and development. Which is a lie, but that's, like, I didn't search for it, so maybe I should have thought to do that before the stream, but I will bet you that Lauren Boebert has a tweet somewhere talking about how drug prices or healthcare in the States is expensive because of research. And I'm not searching for that right now, but yeah. It's just amazing how they can just turn on a dime and nobody cares. Which is one of the features of fascism, by the way, just for the record. Reality doesn't matter. What matters is what I can say now that will get people riled up.
Yeah, you wake up, you say things, you see the reaction, you react to the reaction, and you get to be the chaos president that does all the things without actually having to care about due process. And it's all official actions, so don't worry, nothing bad's going to happen to you.
Fennec says, I do not understand why they're treating EOs like they are the one weird trick that will let us do anything. Well, because they are using the EOs to shift the Overton window. Not necessarily the Overton window with regards to the political compass, but like Overton window as applied to anything. Like the tariffs on China.
What's considered okay for us to
what's
do
considered
as a country.
normal. So the tariffs on China, for example, they go up to 145% and the stock markets crash. They then announce that, like, oh, we're rolling them back. It's only going to be 30%, and the stock markets recover and start surging again. If he had just announced a 30% tariff, that would have crashed the markets. But suddenly, because he started by announcing a 145% tariff, going down to 30 makes the markets surge. So he shifted the window of normalcy, the Overton window, over to where what would originally have been considered ludicrous is now like, oh, good, this is good news. Like, no, that's terrible.
It's a haggling tactic. You start out with the high number so that you can get closer to the number you're looking for.
Yeah, we did that when we bought our first house, but we didn't know the history of pricing on the house until after we had already bought it. We just saw that it had been on the market for a while, but like they brought their price down significantly, and we offered them significantly lower than what they were asking for, and they then dropped it like, okay, we'll give you $1,000 off of the sticker price, and like we had offered them like $20,000 less. So it's like, okay, I guess there's not much wiggle room there. I will pay your asking price mostly. But yeah, Matt Walsh says,
yay!
There has been a giant psyop conducted for years to convince white people that they aren't native to their own homeland. White South Africans have been there for 15 generations, and yet somehow they still don't count as native. White people have been in the Americas for 500 years, and yet we aren't allowed to call this our native land. It doesn't matter if your great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather built a cabin on the land with his own hands. Whose land was it when he built the cabin, Matt? It still isn't your land. It's totally incoherent, but most white people accept this framing. So emotions aside, feelings aside about whether or not white people should call themselves native or call this our native land, like feelings, like how we feel about that aside, do you know what line is in the Canadian national anthem? It's the first two lines. "O Canada, our home and native land."
So it's almost like white people have been calling this their native land for years. Every
single Canadian in public school, regardless of skin color, race, racial identity, however you want to look at it, sings in the morning, "O Canada, our home and native land." And that's not like a reference to the Native Americans that were here first. That is, if I was being cynical, I would say that is explicitly meant to usurp that language for white Canadians to say that it is our native land. So, like, I'm not saying that it should say that. However, it does say that. Literally every Canadian school child calls Canada their native land every day at school.
So this is one of those things where there is nothing that is being said that is technically true. It is nothing. There's nothing in that statement that is technically real. But by saying the statement, you manufacture the idea in people's heads that there is something wrong that needs to be addressed, even if there's nothing there to be addressed in the first place.
Yeah. Also, I think I'm not sure if I pulled this out. Yeah, I did. So, second tweet with regards to this. As I pointed out many times, the concept of native is so confused in our culture that if I call myself a native Marylander or native of Baltimore, nobody bats an eye. But if I call myself a Native American, it's a problem. So I can be native to my state and city, but not my country. How does that work exactly? This is just him pretending to be dumbfounded. when something that it's with something that is super easy to understand. It's because the term Native American means a specific thing. Like, it's like there is a people group that refers to that you are not a part of. Like, you can say you were born in America, you are native to America, but that doesn't mean you are a Native American, because that means a different thing. And it's like the only other words that have been developed so far to describe Native American people are generally ones that are like they have a history of being used as a slur, or they refer to people of other countries that have nothing to do with America, which, to be clear, a lot of Native Americans are actually okay being called Indians. A lot of them call themselves Indians. It's one of those things where that's been the norm for so long by now. So I'm not saying that that's impossible, but what I am saying is that there are some that are not comfortable with that. So we just use the term Native American because they were here first.
Use the term that the person asks you to use for them, and you can't go wrong.
Yeah.
Usually what works best.
Well, unless Matt Walsh asks you to call him a Native American.
If he wants me to call him a Native American, then I'm fine calling him that without it having any meaning whatsoever. I can just literally go, yeah, you are native to America. Why does this matter to you? Why do you need this pedestal so badly?
Yeah. Jasta says, I hate the term American Indian as a native people because Americans of Indian descent exist. Yeah, that's a good point. Wet mulch is whiter than white bread and twice as bland. Matt Walsh, wet mulch. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I've assumed you meant bland. But yeah, no, he's just doing that thing where he does a thing that everybody is already fine. Like everybody's fine with like not calling white people Native Americans. Very few people complain about that. It's only Matt Walsh and his ilk. So he's just doing that thing where he's pretending like it's actually a big deal when it's not. It's only a big deal if you make it a big deal. But also, like, yeah, to take it back to, like, oh, your great whatever grandfather built a cabin on this land with his own hands. Like, yeah, but it wasn't his land. There were people there first.
Also, there are very few people. Like there are very few sane people right now who like wake up in the morning and say we need to evict Matt Walsh from where he lives because he's white. Like that just doesn't fucking happen.
Yeah, no,
but he's arguing against that boogeyman.
But like there are reparations that need to be made to the Native American population. But it's not feasible at this point to say white people go back to Europe. Like that's never going to be something that can just happen. But also, like, the way he's saying it, like, if I find Matt Walsh's house and I build a cabin in his backyard, would he be okay with me living in that cabin and calling that my property?
What if say something, I bought this, blah, blah, blah.
Okay. What does that matter?
It doesn't. It doesn't, because we technically did similar things with the land here when we took it over violently.
In some cases, yeah. But in most cases, it was just like white people showed up and planted a flag and said, this is mine now.
To be fair, we're really good at that.
Yeah.
We're really good at planting a flag somewhere, just saying, mine now.
Mm-hmm. It's called colonialism. And if Matt would actually, like, listen to the meetings that he infiltrates for his movies, he might actually learn something about that. PragerU wants to know, how high should the minimum wage be? As high as it needs to be to live a decent life while working full-time at minimum wage. Like,
and that can vary area to area.
Yeah, like, this might be a hot take, but if you are working full-time, you should be able to afford housing and food.
Yeah.
And if you can't, then they are not paying you enough.
Aaron says, how about 75 an hour? It depends on where you live. The living wage in Georgia is $26 to $28, or at least it was last time I checked 6 months ago. It's probably gone up now because prices for everything has gone up about 20%.
So someone in response to this got Grok to answer it for them. And the answer was interesting because it was like, oh, if we set the minimum wage to $10.20 an hour or something like that, then that is generally seen to be a good minimum wage, whatever, blah, 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 blah. But then it was like, but if it goes up higher than that, then it will cause inflation, and that's a bad thing. And, oh, we got to keep inflation down. And I'm like, okay, so putting my economist hat on right now, which, to be clear, I'm not an economist. But my understanding of inflation is that when you break it down, it ends up being a problem of there's too much currency in circulation. There's too much money in the economy. And the way you solve inflation, or the way you curb it, is by limiting the amount of money that is in the economy. And typically that is done through the Fed. They will they increase interest rates to make it harder to borrow money, which makes it harder for businesses to do things like hire people, which makes unemployment go up. An alternative way to deal with inflation would be to remove money from circulation by taking it from billionaires. Because when their money is sitting there in a bank or in stocks or whatever, that is contributing to that. If you take it away, you don't even have to do anything with it. Like, I mean, yeah, you can provide services and programs and stuff like that, but you could just take it away, and that makes the inflation problem better. Yeah, I know. Okay, Sean, I know I'm not explaining this the greatest. But the thing is,
it's an area where I can't speak on it much because I don't have the expertise.
What it comes down to is there's someone needs to lose, like, money needs to be removed from the system somehow. And the way that has typically been done is by taking it away from poor people. Usually in a roundabout way that results in fewer people having jobs, or their dollars just not having as much power. Whereas if you could choose to take it away from the rich people, but that's never on the table. And Grok missed that as well.
Also, Grok gets reprogrammed all the time with little incentives from Musk anyway, so it makes sense
that is probably what resulted in it going off on white genocide a lot.
Yep. Let's just train the model really heavily real quick on this one bullshit subject matter.
Yeah. And anyway, that is it for the tweets.
Oh boy.
So
we didn't hit 11 o'clock.
No, we didn't. And that was with you taking like an hour to poop.
Look, I'm sorry that my bowels said it was time to evacuate.
Yeah, okay. So, you continuing the stream after this?
I think actually no. I think it is going to be time for me to hop off stream after this personally.
Okay, well then I guess I will look and see who's streaming right now. It's just you and Bokabola.
Senshini says no K-swords today. Dawn
no
seem like
K-swords.
it.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm gonna raid Elijah. So thanks for joining me. As always, fuck off.